Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Dan Jaffe. I'm the CEO of LawLytics to Technology full-time. Mark Faisal, our creative director and the design visionary largely responsible for creating the LawLytics webinar. Mark has asked me to present it today on his behalf. This webinar is an overview of what responsive websites. This webinar will not teach you how to program responsive design, and it is intended only to help you gain an understanding of development. The webinar should last about 30 minutes or less. It is being recorded, and this video, along with C, will be available for replay and download this afternoon on the lawlytics.com website, so there's no need to take notes. I'm going to try to cover. If you have questions or want more details, please either submit them through the questions area in your go-to web. Please either email us or call us after the webinar. We're happy to spend some time talking with you and going over in more detail by explaining a bit about what responsive design is and why it's important to the future of your law firm. Real-world terms with some live sites. And then I'm going to prove to you that responsive design is Google's preferred methodology, reasons why you should act now if your website is not already doing responsive in a best practice type LawLytics member. The good news is that your LawLytics powered websites and blogs are already responsive. You're well ahead of the adapt to accommodate all new web browsing technologies, devices, and screen sizes. For current LawLytics members of why LawLytics sites are laid out the way they are, this understanding will help you when you're adding content to your site, your clients and potential clients a consistent experience across a range of screen sizes, smartphones, tablets, your content to look equally great to all eyes in all situations on all devices. For those of you who are not, although if it gets you thinking about what is possible, that would make us very happy. I will use example sites that are on the LawLytics platform, so you'll see it in action a little bit as well. Responsive design is platform agnostic, and that means that any modern will be made to be responsive in the hands of the right webmaster. For example, WordPress or any other system can be made way out of the gates, like a LawLytics site. Unfortunately, we see a lot of attorneys who had an existing site that somebody tried times has frustrating consequences for the law firm because once the quote-unquote update is delivered, they then firm in the best possible light. If you're on WordPress or any older website platform and your site is not currently responsible so that you won't waste time or money chasing less than optimal redesigns or retrofitting. You not believe any website marketing company who tries to sell you a separate mobile version, especially a separate site as the m.yourlawfirmsite.com. Also, unless there's a utilitarian purposes that enhances the client experience beyond the intake and marketing process, don't let anybody sell you an installed on the user's device, as you're very, very unlikely to ever see any return on the money you invest in that. The Apple App Store or Google Play and install your firm's mobile application on their phone unless they're already engaged with them or their lives easier. The world is going mobile, and mobile web browsing is usable and well used. If your site doesn't look great and display all of your content for your potential browsers, you're missing out not only on potential clients who find you for the first time through your online marketing. Years past would have just picked up the phone and called you without further investigation. Look at these statistics. More as their primary means of getting information from the internet. Are you in a position where you can afford to give up 1/3 of your don't have a good mobile presence? If you have a site that's not mobile compatible, or if your site has a separate mobile version, which nearly all separate mobile websites are, you're leaking a very significant percentage of your potential new clients about you and your firm. In addition to the 1/3 of the market that uses mobile, desktop, and laptop loving potential clients will eventually visit your site from their smartphones before going somewhere these days. Each day that number dwindles. So what do they do? What do they go to your office? Well, more and more they bring up your website on a mobile device, and they expect to be able to click on your address and even voice navigation to your office with a couple of taps. How many people catch up on information in your office library? And when they do so, what do they use? Mostly it's a smartphone because that's always with them. And sometimes you need your website to supply all of the relevant information that your potential clients need to be fully engaged and how to contact you. And unfortunately, this who and how to contact you is where many separate mobile websites. The big idea behind responsive web design is that you only have to have one website itself for optimal user experience, no matter what device it is displayed on. There is a consistency of content and of branding across all versions, no matter where your potential clients look at your site from. So they optimally for whatever device they happen to be on at the time. And I'll show you how this works in just a moment. Good response page is defined as the user area gets more narrow. As you can see from the illustration in this slide up here, is optimal for desktop computers and larger laptops, and even some tablets when they're in land website. As the viewing area shrinks, it gets more narrow. The content should rearrange itself. So in this smaller, the picture stays about the same, but the columns rearrange themselves to be stacked. It's all there, just as easy to read on whatever screen the visitor chooses to look at you and your website or your blog without mobile compatibility. While all of the content may be there, if they're looking at a site, the inch monitor, the words are oftentimes way too small for the human eye to read, at least without pinching. Older people may not be able to physically read it no matter how big it gets, and if they get it big enough to read, there's only going to be a minuscule portion to digest it as a whole. Certainly it makes it difficult for your site to create not only an educational response to the idea of engaging you, of calling you, liking you, having a consultation with you, and ultimately retaining you, because it's so old school and it's a clear indication in their eyes of your incompetence. Every hour, every bit of it, from your office to what you wear to court to what you drive, on your potential clients, it influences the desirability of your practice in their eyes. This is late 2003, and the first impression that most of your potential clients, if your website doesn't work well for all of them, they presume that you won't work well. Responsive web design, at least as it's powered by LawLytics, guarantees that your site will make a great impression. So this is the LawLytics website, and I'm going to use this as the first our site to give people information about what we do. But it's designed by Mark Faisal, who did a lot of how it displays differently for different versions. What you're looking at here is a full desktop version. Use video, and when you look at the menus, there's ample room for really robust menus that display different things and display it in a very robust and interactive way. When you scroll, the menu persists. Now, we're going to slowly start shrinking it. Now, at this point, we're still in the full-size version, top menu. There it changes into what we would refer to as the next level of responsiveness. So this is for a portrait mode. And what you'll see is all of the information is still there, but we had to move some stuff over to make room, for example, the prayer. And when we look at these menus, all of the information still fits, but it's condensed a little bit more. To consolidate this, you'll see that eventually there is no room for an adequate top menu. And then as this continues to get smaller and smaller, it gets to the point where you've got a very small tablet there. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see that all of the content that is on the main LawLytics site is there, including the footer size. All of the information that's in this footer starts to expand. And one way or the other, want a continuity of information and branding across mobile, desktop, and of function. And I'm just going to show you a complex example, which is much more than most law firms' websites need. But we have a price calculator in full desktop mode, show you what our prices are as you adjust the variables of some of the things that we offer. This would be a tablet size, even down to a mobile phone size. All of this functionality still works. Phone, you can drag this with your fingers and still calculate the price. The idea is that we want you to be able has to offer regardless of where you come in. And that's how you should think about your site for your clients and your potential clients as well. It's real quickly. So this is an example of a full desktop version. And what I'm going to do is this, when it's in full screen mode, there are arrows for the slider, which advances roughly 8. So when you get into a touch device, you'll see something more like this with a drop. And done right, everything in responsive is touch enabled when you come in on a touch device. For example, if you happen to be looking at this site on an iPhone, you would be able to flip through these pictures using your finger. See that all of the content, and this is quite a lot of content, but this is useful content to his potential clients, regardless of whether they come. These 3 footer items here are stacked on top of each other in the smaller versions. And watch how LawLytics automatically makes room for. Here's one other example, and I'll just quickly go through some of the paces with it. You'll see how it responds, see how the menu. When you look at various aspects of your site that are really important in a mobile type site is it maps all of the locations together, and then it offers a separate page for each individual location that shows. Reduce this down so that you're having more of the mobile experience. It reduces it down perfectly so anybody that comes in is. I'm going to go back now to the slides. Here are some of the main differences between law firm websites that are responsive and download this afternoon on the LawLytics website. So there's no need to take notes and no need for me to go through all of these items. The past 3 years of my life into LawLytics, which is 100% all in on responsive design. So let's examine what a higher, more objective authority has to say about the matter. Methods of building a smartphone optimized website. The first is responsive. Detecting a mobile version with the same URL, which means that if they go to www.yoursite.com, they'll be served either a full screen or a mobile version. And the third is having a separate site with a separate m.yourlawfirm.com. Google clearly recommends the first method there. There's nothing that any self-serving legal marketing company that doesn't excel at responsive, thoughtful attorney into believing otherwise. You'll be able to download these slides, like I said before, later this afternoon, and get all these references and visit the site and these pages yourself and research this further. But let's take an in-depth 3 main points explaining why they favor responsive design. These points are strong expert testimony about as they align perfectly with the goals that all for-profit private law firms have for their online presence. Is a single URL or website address. And Google's point here is to quote them, using a single with share and link to your content and a single URL for the content helps Google's algorithms. This is huge. It's about making it easy on your clients, and it also helps Google better index the content. Point two, when you have a separate mobile site rather than a responsive site, your webmaster has to version depending on which browser or device your user is visiting the site on. This takes additional time. According to Google, with responsive, no redirection is needed for users to get to the device. Also, user agent-based redirection, which is the non-responsive version served on the same URL, is for those of you wanting a deeper dive, check out Google's article and the link to the pitfalls of using redirections, but is not a factor in responsive design. We've seen many purveyors of legal websites and blogs, the redirects, when they add separate mobile versions. And then they try to upsell the attorney as a band-aid because they can't figure out how or why they tanked your ratings. And point three that Google makes is it saves resources for both your site and Google's crawlers. Any Googlebot user agent needs to crawl your pages once, as opposed to crawling multiple times with different user agents. Efficiency can indirectly help Google index more of your site's contents and keep it appropriately fresh. The judge. You're submitting a set of motions in limine before trial, and the judge has asked you to be brief and has recommended, saying in no uncertain terms that she will not be happy about reading anything more than that. Using any downside or compromise to you. Using a separate mobile version or separate mobile site is like the judge may reluctantly listen, but she's probably not going to be happy about it. Why not do index your site and keep your listings appropriately fresh? It's been about 4 years. After a 10-year career as a full-time litigator, old habits die hard. So I'm going to close with the 2 points, the what I would consider expert witness testimony from Google that I just gave. If you take nothing from this webinar keep these 2 points in mind. Point 1, responsive web design, when done right, when supported, is less expensive over time and oftentimes even less expensive out of the gate. This is because built responsive can easily be made to adapt as new browsers, devices, screen types, and screen sizes stream up. And whatever your future potential clients use to look at your firm's web presence, your website will readily retrofitting. Point 2, let me leave you with this final thought. The future is here. Almost half market share to virtually nothing. It's done. Microsoft is a very minimum in the era when BlackBerry and Microsoft were influential in mobile. Then your firm has an asset that's already fully deployed. Reality that you need a technology upgrade and not a duct tape and bubblegum retrofit, the more and traction. Even if your website was designed yesterday, but you picked a company that sold you a separate time, the fact that you were willing or that you were able to be tricked into buying the stale goods still selling in the age of Google Hummingbird and iOS 7, this market fact that you and in and of itself as to why these companies that are not serving your best interest continue to operate as if BlackBerry. If you recently bought a separate mobile site or a separate mobile version, there's the company that sold it to you should adapt, evolve, and sell you what's in your best interest. And what is in your best interest is responsive design. Many lawyers come to us have lost ranking, but when we get under the hood and we take over their web presence, we see from the objectives inquiries is roughly proportional to the increased percentage of users who have been visiting their firm's LawLytics And with the switch to responsive design, oftentimes solves that problem of declining new content or bring new visitors to the site. The longer your firm languishes with outdated advantage, responsive design is not a trend. It's an evolution, and it's the future. What kind of future do you than immediate retirement or transition to working for somebody else? Then your path is clear and the time to make your move is now. Whether you're a LawLytics customer or not, we're happy to spend some time with you going over your web strategy. Both search engines and for users on all devices, give us a call or fill out the form that you'll find on this URL on our. We do these webinars every Thursday at 10 o'clock Pacific time. And by visiting the LawLytics website at lawlytics.com and access replays of past ones. Again, the recording of this webinar along with the slides will be available on the LawLytics website.